Why do you think Israel has gone in now, and how significant is the timing of this, and who do you think's to blame?
Well, the Hamas rockets have killed up to 20 Israelis over the past 5 years. And as far as I'm concerned, that's 20 Israeli civilians too many. They should not have suffered in any way at all. But the reaction from Israel in the past few days, indeed throughout this entire year, in killing hundreds, in slaughtering people in Gaza, in treating Gaza like a goldfish bowl with fish that can be speared, is completely disproportionate. Democratic nations should provide proportionate responses when they are threatened in the way that Israeli citizens have been treated. But the response from Israel is utterly unacceptable.
There is the view, of course, that isolating Hamas with sanctions and airstrikes and occupations only encourages even more extremist elements. What's your take on that?
Well, I want to make it very clear that I regard Hamas as quite evil, and I think its behaviour and its reactions are stupid. I mean, you cannot simply defeat a power as strong as Israel, backed as it is by the United States and many other countries across the world. So it's really just a David versus Goliath, with David throwing twigs at Goliath. It's just completely pointless. But I think we also have to recognise the disproportionate response from Israel. For every one Israeli citizen who's been killed, and that is every single death is unacceptable. But for every one Israeli who's been killed, the Israelis have killed some 25 people or more in Gaza during the course of the past year. Now, this is equivalent to a warlike situation. The Second World War, for example, where the resistance kill one German soldier and the Germans burn down the entire village and slaughter its inhabitants as a result. There's a difference between a genuine war and a war between two armies, between two sets of combatants, and where there is an armed army, an army of one of the strongest armies in the Middle East on one side of the barrier, and a city of 1.5 million people, mostly civilians, on the other side. That's what the whole idea of proportionate responses comes from. It's based into the idea of how democratic nations should behave.
How do you make peace if you don't want to talk to your enemies? I mean, whatever the West and Israel thinks, Hamas won elections fair and square. So should Israel engage with the democratically elected leaders of Hamas?
Israel should, the United States should, and the European Union should. And we had a brief opportunity 2 years ago when the Palestinian Unity Government was formed with Ismail Haniyeh as its Prime Minister. None of these bodies agreed to talk with that organisation. It collapsed, of course, with violence between Fatah and Hamas in Gaza just a few months later. But all the time, we put the question at Hamas. Hamas must do this. Hamas must do that. Palestinians must do this or must do that. But Israel must do some things too. Every single country in the world, bar Israel, says stop your programme of building settlements, lift the blockade of Gaza. And what happens? The blockade continues and the settlements continue to grow by up to 5% in this year alone, despite international condemnation. I mean, Israel, the question has to be put to Israel as well as to Hamas. What are you doing to promote a peace process?
Does this escalation in violence between Hamas and Israel scuttle any hopes that the incoming Obama administration has of pushing the peace process forward? I mean, Obama's now got the situation in Gaza, he's got Afghanistan, he's got Iraq. What happens now? What does he do?
Well, it should be quite the opposite. It should concentrate the attention of the American administration, because they should recognise that unless they deal with the problem of the Middle East, of Israel and Palestine, then this canker will continue to generate hatred directed against the West for decades to come. Just yesterday, the Israelis killed within 5 minutes as many people as the Hamas shells have killed in the past 5 years. This sort of one-sided approach cannot continue. The big powers, the United States and the European Union, have got to start playing and recognising that the game is completely one-sided, that Israel holds all the cards, and that's just not a defensible position. The Palestinians have got to be given more respect. The Palestinians and the siege of the Palestinian economy has got to be lifted, and the constant injustices against Palestinians have got to come to an end. The two sides have got to come to the table as equals, not with one party always able to pull all the strings.